We got Elon Musk,
Okay.
Mr. Muskie, giving
Damn.
access to the fucking Doge government Department of Payment Systems.
Yeah, he took over that whole bank account.
Right?
Joint bank account in his name now.
Super nasty work.
We asking him for allowances. I want to get my nails done. Elon is like, all right, I'm going to tell you what color it is. Fuck.
God damn.
Can't do nothing. Shit.
For real. But, you know, it is we're literally witnessing a hostile government takeover. Like,
bro, I'm saying.
Literally happening in the flesh right now.
They fired or they put on leave and or fired an additional all the USAID people. 10,000 down to 394, something like that.
Yeah, but cutting down on spending, providing government aid, and then like Ukraine is in there. And it's a whole bunch of like sinister shit. You know, our audience is pretty smart. They probably already know this stuff, but the implications of this shit, ranges from like financial security risks, privacy and data breaches, conflict of interest, which is a huge one.
Conflict of interest is
the most obvious one. Like,
that's the one to me. That because the other ones, I'm like, okay, this is this is like kind of an unqualified person who's given access to a system or whatever. I'm like, that's maybe part of a government takeover thing, given the fact that, but that's kind of like, that's not as crazy to me. But
it's
like,
really bad
this person
whenever
is an industrialist who's a billionaire who's competing with the motherfuckers and now has direct access to the whole treasury shit and is the richest person on this planet and is the co-vice president. That's crazy. I mean, to be fair, there's already a bunch of corruption in like the fact that Senate people can switch industries and go from regulating an industry in the government to working for that industry. Insane corruption. And the fact that people can buy stocks off of shit that's related to their like Senate knowledge, crazy corruption. Both of those are dystopian, evil, apocalyptic shit that's like legal and known, and it's not like some secret scandal. That's just how the system works. Is crazy.
People bet the Pelosi index. People bet the Pelosi index.
As in, like whatever she's buying, we're gonna buy.
Yeah, like that. Like that's a well-known like tactic. Like, I'm just.
So their purchases at least publicly known.
Yes,
like we know what they buy. Okay, that's slightly less bad, but still insane.
And it wasn't always the case. That's actually fairly new.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, that's
good.
One step slightly out of hell, but it's still hot.
Right. 100%. Yeah. Excuse me. And then, just like y'all said, it's a private individual who has so much access and power. Because, you got also, like y'all was saying, potential market manipulation. Access, I'm actually reading this shit because I had to do my research. My memory is not the greatest, so I have to actually read. With access to real-time federal payment data, Musk could gain insights into government spending patterns and policies before they are publicly available, creating an unfair advantage in financial markets. National security threats. Federal payment system is crucial to national economic security. Unauthorized access could expose vulnerabilities that foreign adversaries or bad actors might exploit. Loss of public trust, that's already happening, but you got a lot of people who are very deaf, dumb, and blind to what is actually going on, and they rooting for it in real time still.
And there was a Democratic representative who kind of gets at what my take is for a lot of the current political like situation. It's like if everything is DEFCON 3, then nothing is DEFCON 3. So we do need to have like these situations where people can understand what is DEFCON 3. Like DEFCON 5 is actually the term I think he said. I'm not familiar with what those are, but anyway. But like
he knows.
Yeah, but like whatever is the most extreme form of what we should be reacting to, like the Democrats need to do a better job of letting you know, like, well, this is what it is. That's like an absolute catastrophe. This is very, very bad. This is like bad. Like there needs to be some level of like modulating people's responses to these things, because you want people to like be out in the street and rioting when you say
not giving up.
This is catastrophic, right? And then you want people to you want to modulate their responses in those kind of ways. I will say that with this particular thing with Elon, from my perspective, is a lot of the rhetoric that I see around this doesn't make sense. I think, like, for example, people are saying like he's not an elected official and he has access to all this kind of that's how the government works. There are non-elected officials that have access to a lot of your shit. Sorry. I think what we need to focus on
is all exactly the federal workers.
Exactly. I think what we need to focus on is exactly what Eddie said, and that's the proper context of exactly how bad this is. You have a person that has conflict of interest galore with access to information and resources that he can wield with that information that can destabilize like countries, like destabilize global economies with this kind of shit. When you have the kind of resources and impact that Elon Musk has, like this is a very serious situation where I think that the alarm needs to be sounded on this. I think this is probably equally as bad as like the Russell Vought situation. I think that's a part of the flood zone situation, because I see a lot more people focusing on like the Elon situation and not focusing on like that, when I think both of them are equally as serious and need the same amount of attention. But I think that this particular situation, based on how this could play out with the information that he has and him being a extremely selfish actor, could turn out to be extremely bad for a lot of economies.
This is how we get that dystopia, like that, this like Peter Wayland, like cyberpunk, Blade Runner, like what's the word? Corpocracy, where we like our government is replaced by a series of corporations. Because I'm like, because Elon Musk is not just a billionaire; he is the billionaire, and I kind of didn't realize this, but like he's the richest, he's the most billionaire of all the billionaires. I didn't realize that for a long time. Maybe
adjusted for inflation, this person, but generally that we can 100% verify. Absolutely.
Okay. And then look, I know that there's also a bunch of like cash billionaires that just aren't on the list at all. But in terms of like the Mukesh Ambanis and the Bill Gates and the Warren Buffetts, he's just at the top of that list based on everyone's calculation. It's like what? He's nearing half $1 trillion.
Yeah. Depending on the day.
So if you have a person like that, I'm just thinking his goal is wealth, but it's also like power. I'm trying to do the space race. I'm trying to, electric cars. I'm trying to create an economy of my brand. Yeah. Then we turn into a weird place where it's like health insurance from Tesla and, your water from Tesla and your internet from Tesla, where everything is.
Amazon's already doing that.
Corporate. Yeah.
It's already
crazy vertical integration. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one big danger. The thing that I'm curious about, though, is in terms of responding to flood the zone with focused triage, which is what you're describing, Alvin, is what does that actually look like? Because I kind of think if you're going, hey, this person is doing a whole bunch of fucked up shit, some of which is the most heinous shit, then the response is kind of the same regardless, which is get into the streets. So I'm curious what the difference is in triage versus all of this shit is just catastrophic together.
Because I don't think all of this stuff is catastrophic together. That's why. So I think that like your response in the streets.
So like to clarify, even if that is false, the behavior would be the same as my.
I disagree.
Might not be true.
No, I completely disagree. I think there's a huge difference between let's get into the street and march and mobilize and look at like individual community grassroots stuff. Let's prepare for the midterm elections. I think that's completely different than like we need to storm like a building kind of. I'm not saying anybody should do that. Okay. But I'm just saying I think those are two different things of like being in the streets.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I think that when you look,
and just to clarify, you're saying that the grassroots, let's get ready for the midterms, that's in response to the triaged, hey, this Vought thing is catastrophic, as opposed to just trying to respond to everything all at once and storming something. Is that
I'm not saying I'm not making a recommendation on what they should or should not do. I'm just saying that I agree with like them as people in the know, fully understanding like what that should do, and they should target it as they, with information asymmetries, they would be in a position to actually like direct people in the way that they seem to think based on that information. I don't know what that is. I don't have all the information that they do. I do know that like obviously it's not as catastrophic as like the average person thinks, because like a lot of this stuff has already been at least paused in the courts, right? So for example, like as of like 2 days ago, Elon doesn't have access to any sensitive information, right? That got paused by a Biden appointed federal judge, by the way. Elections matter, people. But so like I think that what I would expect a democratic resistance force from a democratic government perspective to look like is the people with the most information should be guiding us in a way that's most productive to the cause, whatever that may be, right? But I don't know exactly what that looks like. I haven't really thought much about it.
I actually have this. So part of my thoughts, like in preparing for the podcast tonight, was they need to actually speak in common language. Like this specifically, like this is why this is bad. This is how this affects you. No American politician does that. Well, except for like well, let me not even say that because like you got people like Jasmine Crockett who actually do. But like when it comes to like, like shit, I don't know, like fucking Biden or whoever else, goddamn, you look to for political or whatever, like CNN or whatever other news station, like they rarely like go in depth in common speak and say like this is why this is bad. And like for you MAGA voters, for you low income people who are like voting and rioting so hard, this is how this negatively affects you. If they cut government spending, and then if they reduce government spending on social programs or like cut school funding, your kids are not going to be able to eat lunch, are not going to have breakfast. And you got a motherfucker on the news literally telling children they need to pick themselves up by the bootstraps and get a job so they can eat. And it's wild as that is. It's wild as that
lazy,
is.
unemployed kids. Fuck,
it's true.
Insane. Yeah.
I think that cutting off foreign aid is antithetical to stuff that Trump continues to say. Like he continues to say that he wants to be like a empire building president, effectively. Like, oh, we should take over this, we should take over that. And I'm not saying that IMF and US aid are all completely bad, but there is a strong, well-supported case that these are effectively just neo-imperialist programs, man. Like it's colonization without colonization in a lot of ways, right? It's a cheaper form of colonization. It's a less militaristic form of colonization, but colonization anyway. Like it's a neo-imperialist agenda in many, many ways. So like if you really were about that life, you would just continue to wield that influence. Like I don't know if people fully understand that, right? Like NATO, as it currently stands, what NATO really does is it basically puts a whole bunch of countries in the United States' back pocket, and then all of those countries don't spend a lot for their military because our military effectively becomes their military, right? So we effectively have made them vassal states. That's effectively how that works.
Protection racket.
Exactly. So when your protector is a country, right? What do? You prop that country up. You give that country more favorable terms. You provide that country with raw materials and shit when they need it. Like there's a symbiosis that has to work there. And that is how the United States has effectively worked as a neo-imperialist power in a lot of ways. So for him to come out and say, I want to be this colonial power, I want to take over this, I want to do this, I want to expand that, and not have that as a part of his toolkit, just shows that he's stupid. Or he's either stupid or he's the smartest man in the world, and he's saying like, look at this, while I just like impose like a tax agenda that like makes me and all of my friends really rich.
I think that reflects on us. Like we're stupid because we allowing it. Like we're not saying nothing. Like no one's saying nothing. Like y'all don't really hear what I'm saying. You just want to dance, type shit. Because I remember once we had an FD on, and like a lot of times when we like, hey, this is like really bad. This is like really bad. Like this shit X, Y, and Z could happen. And a lot of the times like the response is, well, the good thing is they're dumb or they're not smart at it. They're not going about it like the most intelligent way. But it's still happening, even though like yes, it's getting blocked. Certain stages of it are getting blocked. But my nigga, we only in the first couple weeks.
Yeah,
like this is only the first couple weeks, probably. Like, and it don't matter. And the thing of it is like they are literally. The country has never been in this sort of predicament where we're in where like it's so blatant that we're in a hostile takeover. And I don't think the Democrats even know how to respond because they just doing all this shit. And it's just like, what are you going to do? What can you do? There's like, the Democrats are saying, hey, your state and local legislators, we can't really do a whole lot of shit about the things that are going on. Like, yeah, we can try to stop it in court, but they got so many people in their back pocket. But we keep saying, oh, these people are dumb. Or like you either stupid or like you're brilliant. But I think it's a combination of both. But I also think that does reflect back on the people who put them in office or just stood by and allowed the shit to happen. Like I think we all have some culpability in this. You want to tell them about the community album?
Hello. Have you ever wanted to find a new place where you could like, comment, and subscribe to some shit? Man, if that is what you are in the market for, do we have a place for you? Ooh. Waving the red flag. So first and foremost, you can like, comment, and subscribe on any video. Come through, drop some in the comments, help your boys out, and engage in some lively discussion. However, if you want to engage on a more intimate level with some people that we've been fortunate enough to build a community around, please make sure that you are signing up for our membership so that you can get access to our Discord. Again, we have a thriving, very active community in there of like-minded individuals. Go in there, wave some flags, whether they be red, green, beige, whatever. Bounce some ideas off people, interact with your boys. We're all in there at various points. Interact with again, the community people. Get their thoughts, get their opinions, suggest topics. It's a very well thought out Discord server. So make sure that if that is something that tickles your fancy, that you are signing up for membership and taking part. Peace.
You heard him.
So smooth. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, that's how all of this has happened to this point. And to your point about the Democrat shit, I do feel like it feels like the Democratic Party is still stuck in like 2008. And I don't know if there's an overly simplistic view, but it feels like, because Trump has changed the Republican Party. Like, it's a different thing than what it was when McCain was there in terms of at least rhetoric. And yes. I mean, look, but I'll go further than rhetoric, because I know sometimes the argument is like, oh, Trump is largely talk and not, but when I think the Heritage Foundation dude, Vaught, being now the budget director, and all of the two houses being stacked Republican to allow all of his appointments to just flow through easy, because it seems like some amount of whipping had already happened before this, because even the Republicans who weren't necessarily super duper Trumpites, it's like by this time, Trump is he's getting a homeless man off the street and going, yeah, this is the guy who's going to be in charge of the fucking treasury, whatever. And it's like everybody kind of talks through whatever. And then it's still Republicans unanimously vote yes, Democrats unanimously vote no, and then it gets passed, which to me means this was planned for years to get the House looking like this.
It was a very stacked RNC. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and so no, all good. And so when I think about that, I'm like, it feels like being trapped, because we're like, oh, the Democrats need to do this, or we should have voted for them as less two evils. But it just feels like we don't really have a party to vote for that has a leader or a agenda that matches what we need in opposition to what the Republican, because the Republican Party has been allowed to become more authoritarian and more right wing, whereas the Democratic Party has kind of stayed stagnant. And the closest thing that we had to a foil to this would have been a Bernie Sanders, but that just didn't happen. So I don't know what any of that means, but it seems like we're stuck with, a sword and the other side has a gun. And we're like, fuck, how can we make this sword shoot bullets? And it's like, it's just a different thing. And we're not equipped.
Yeah, I think there's good things to look forward to in terms of that. So one, I think that a lot of what I've heard in regards to Hakeem Jeffries' tactics seem sound. It's what I would do. I think that you're right that a lot of this stuff was planned. So we talk about like Chevron or Roe v. Wade, and how the GOP very much focused a lot of their effort down ballot and lost a lot of higher profile races so that they could stack the courts, and then death by 1,000 cuts. They put 30 cases like went to the Supreme Court at roughly the same time from the states, 30-ish cases. And I think that what they did really well from an RNC perspective is they were willing at certain points to let some of these like contested races, at least short term, go Democrat. So now they have a war chest. So like a lot of these cabinet positions that would have been contested. I also want to say that like it's very common for people to get their cabinet positions through. Like I think they did a very good job with Obama with keeping some of his from being confirmed for a very long time. But that kind of doesn't matter.
Qualifying question. it is the gap, because I'm looking at some of these and going, yeah, it sounds like it would be common and there'd be a little bit of back and forth. A lot of these cabinet appointments seems particularly contentious, not just
but that's my point.
Lines.
Agree. But my point with that is what's happening with a lot of these situations, and why I think the RNC was very good about picking their battle this time, is a lot of these senators that would have contested, like I'm thinking the people who would have blocked RFK Jr. or the people who tried to block Hegseth. These were people who it was very, a lot of people seemed like they wanted to. And I think that the background deal, especially for RFK Jr., was if you vote for us on this one, when you're up for re-election in 2 years, I won't fund your competition. Like they are literally, like, they literally have a war chest where they can punish their people.
When you say war chest, are we talking about? Can you elaborate on that? That's money that's going towards the campaigns of people in the Republican Party that's been built up by what means?
Any
that's
means,
the right question?
like you can
so what you're saying is they've let other because I think I'm trying to because some of what you said I didn't understand.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to kind of piece it together in my mind. Is the idea that they let some Republicans lose in order to save money that would be later used as a threat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got you.
Because that was literally what a lot of the pundits stated, specifically for a lot of the RFK potentially contentious like Senate votes. You know, can you really afford to vote against us right now? Because you're up for re-election in 2 years, and I'm sitting on a ton of money, and I own the RNC. The RNC is going to do what I say, and I will fund your competitor. And you know, like, do you want to lose? And that, I'm not gonna get on that soapbox. Never mind.
Yeah. And what was the Chevron thing? Real quick, like one sentence synopsis.
Chevron was a ruling that you had to have expert commentary and weigh in on any rulings for certain regulations, right? So like you couldn't have like a room of lawmakers like unilaterally make some stuff without, again, within the body of a federal agency or outside consulting, like you had to have expert commentary on these regulations in order
outside.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Oh wait, and that was a thing that got changed to where you did have to have that expert consultation, or that got
you don't yeah, they got rolled back. You don't have to have that anymore. Yeah. I would argue that it I would argue with lots of context that it was functionally dead anyway. But functionally dead and actually dead, I think, are a very like real distinction in 2025. Like I think
you can't revive for real dead.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it's I think there's dangerous time. I guess. And maybe we'll cut this because I might just be rehashing in a circle and it might not be productive. But I think that we stepped aside of what I was trying to get at when we were talking about, because I'm not saying that we have to know what all the strategies should be. I think it's fair to just say, I don't know, but there are people who do know and they should be focusing on that.
Or people who shouldn't know.
I'm trying to,
even if they don't, they should. Or people who should know, even if they don't. Like I think
people who should know should be able to do this.
We pay them to know. Yeah.
So then my question is, what is the additional value from a communications perspective or from an action perspective or from a mobilization or change perspective of saying, okay, look, this thing is bad, but here's the shit that you need to focus on. And what would those, and where would you say our focus, for people's focus should be directed with all the shit that's going on in this flood the zone kind of environment? Where should our attention be? And where should our elected officials be pointing our attention? And why does that have value to the action or mobilization we might take as a result?
So from my perspective,
that's a question we need to ask a politician.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna try to contextualize.
That's not a fair question to ask.
Yeah, I don't think it's a fair question, but I'm gonna try to contextualize. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna try to contextualize why I think a politician should be equipped to answer that. Right. So one, everybody has finite resources. Like I just gave an example about how like the DNC in various ways has had low coffers. The RNC for various reasons may have larger coffers, like all that kind of thing. You also have a mind share, like finite resources. You also have a bandwidth from an individual person perspective. People have a very limited span of what they can even care about. That's just how people are. So if you're operating in a space with finite resources on multiple levels, you probably should divert your resources to the most pressing problems. And the most pressing problem doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest one. The most pressing problem can be the one with the most impact that you can solve. Again, that's a very like complicated level of
that you can't do anything about.
Exactly. So I would expect like the people again that don't have the information asymmetries that we as private citizens have to be able to utilize those very finite resources in the way that gets the best bang for the buck for their constituents and for their country and for the people that they allegedly want to serve and protect. And again, I don't necessarily know what that strategy looks like, right? Because from my perspective as a lay person, I'm saying fight on every front all the time and just don't sleep and just do that shit. That's how I live my life. But I don't know if that's the right thing to do. I don't know if that's the right strategy, but I would expect, Jeffries and Chuck Schumer to know what the right thing to do. And I would just like more confidence that they do have that in the bag. And again, I'm more confident in Jeffries recently than I am in Chuck.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was. I'll concede that I think that the which thing should we focus on. I think it was all of what I asked was a fair question, but the what should
it was
we
a
focus
great
on
question. It's
fair
great
to say
question.
I don't know to that section of it, but I think it was a fair question based on what was said before. Like I'm just asking for an elaboration on points that were made as personal points before. But just kind of summarizing some of that idea, I think one thing that did click for me as you were saying that is, I think that part of my response or the way that I'm viewing this, which is probably an underdeveloped way of looking at it, is that the problem is like Trump, Elon, that whole group of people. And so the only way to really solve this like deluge of problems is to like get them up out of here in some way, an impeachment, like focusing on more wood behind one arrow and just going straight to the source, as opposed to trying to fight the most impactful of the whatevers, because I'm just assuming that the deluge is just going to keep fucking coming. So it's like, yeah, cool, we can put out that fire, but we're not addressing the motherfucker with the matchbook, which maybe is to your point is not actually possible. Like we can't. There aren't tools that the Democratic Party has to really depower Trump or Elon. So it's just pick the biggest fire and focus whatever tools we have to put that shit out and keep it from destroying the system, if that's even possible. Is my take of what you described.
Indubitably. Oh yeah. Rich McCormick was the guy I was talking about earlier.